Hello everyone and welcome back to this video. In a previous video I talked about quadratic equations and the importance of knowing how to solve quadratic equations because it has many applications in STEM in general, so engineering, technology, mathematics and sciences, right? So in a previous video I talked about the method of solving quadratic equation, which is factoring. Now I want to focus on one of the methods of solving equation that I prefer. It's really straightforward and to me it's the most important method I've learned, right, for solving quadratic equations. So again, there are about 4 methods to solve quadratic equations, but today I'll be talking about the use of method 2, which is the method 2, which involves the use of what we call the quadratic formula. So what's the quadratic? Remember the form of a quadratic equation, right? So a quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, right? So the quadratic formula is saying that, well, if you're looking for the value of x, right, it is given by the formula minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4a times c divided by all this divided by 2a. So again, this is just offhands. People keep asking me, oh, how do you remember this equation after a long time? Well, the truth about it is that I have solved a lot of problems using the quadratic formula, so it really sticks to memory because I've solved a lot of problems, right? When I initially learned this, I solved probably more than 30 problems, so that helped me retain this, right? So it's clear, right? So you can see the b is the coefficient of x, the a is the coefficient of x squared, and the c is the constant term right there. So it's going to be clearer when we do an example. Let's just take the first example. Let's look at a very simple form of a quadratic equation, right? Let's just assume that we have a quadratic equation. If you watch the previous videos, that looks like this. So x squared minus 9x is equal to 0, right? We solved this problem in the previous video, right? So you can see clearly from this that if you compare this with the equation, right, let's write down the equation below. So we're going to have ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So you can see that just by comparing these two equations, you can see that a in this case is going to be 1 because there's nothing in front of the x squared here, right? But my b is going to be actually minus 9, right? And of course, if you look at that very well, my c is going to be 0 because there's nothing, there's no constant term in that equation there, right? So if we know this now, let's see if we can solve this using the quadratic formula. So let's say we're looking for x now, right? We know that we're looking for x, right? So x is going to be minus b, so minus b plus or minus. So minus b is going to be minus into minus 9, right? Plus minus square root of, right? B squared is going to be again minus 9 all squared minus 4 times a. In this case, our a is 1 times c, which is 0. Interesting. So divided by 2 times a, which is 1. So if we do this correctly, my x is going to be equal to minus minus, that's going to give us a plus there, plus minus square root of, we're going to have, what do we have? Minus 9 squared is going to be 81, right? Minus this is going to give us 0, of course, right? Divided by 2. So again, if we do this correctly, we're going to get 9 plus or minus square root of 81 should be 9 divided by 2. So you can see that my x is most likely going to be 9 minus 9 divided by 2, which is of course 0, or we could have my x is equal to 9 plus 9 divided by 2, which is going to give me 18 divided by 2, of course, is going to be 9. Again, you can check this, right? You can check, right, if this equation, if these values of x is correct. So by substituting this into that equation, right? If you substitute that into that equation, so for x equal to 0, of course, 0 squared minus 9 times 0 is 0, right? So the right hand side is equal to the left hand side, right? What about 9? If you substitute the value of 9 into that equation, does it give us 0? The answer is yes, because we're going to have 9 squared, which is 81, minus 9 times 9, which is 81 minus 81, which is 0. So again, clearly, if you do the check, you're going to see, if you do the check, you're going to see that the left hand side of that equation is equal to the right hand side of that equation. Okay, all right, very good. Now let's take a second example, right? This let's see if we can solve something a little bit more complicated, right? So let's just do this very quickly. So let's take example, this time around example 2 now, and see what happens, right? This time let's make it a little bit complicated. So let's say we have 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 is equal to 0. Again, this is one of the problems we solved in the previous video. The best thing I always advise is if you can put the equation, the original equation of a quadratic, the form of a quadratic equation, the original equation of a quadratic equation down, you can kind of see and extract the values of a, b, and c, right? So let's just put it down here. So we're gonna have x squared, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So if we compare these two equations, you can see that my a is going to be 2, my b is going to be 4, and my c is going to be 2, because that's the position, right, that the 2 is occupying, right? Okay, now that we know this, let's apply the formula again, right? So x is equal to minus b plus or minus, so we're kind of invoking the quadratic formula, right? Plus or minus b squared minus 4ac, all this divided by 2a. So let's try it and see. So x is going to be minus b, so that's minus 4 plus or minus square root of, we're having b squared, so that's 4 squared minus 4 times a in this case is 2, times c is 2. Very good. So we're at this point now, so divided by 2 times a, we have to be careful here, a is 2 as well. So clearly this is x is equal to minus 4 plus or minus square root of, we're having what, 4 squared is going to be 16 minus 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is again 16, right? Divided by all these, divided by what, 4. Okay, good. So if we do this correctly, we should get x is equal to minus 4 plus or minus square root of 16 minus 16 should be 0. So that's gone. Divided by 4. So this is going to be minus 1. And if you watch a previous video, you'll see that this is exactly what we got, right? For sure. Okay, now, if we know this now, again, you can quickly do your check, right? It's up to you, right? I always advise that you do your check just to be sure, right? So how do we do the check? We substitute x equal to minus 1 into the original equation and see if the left hand side is equal to the right hand side. And if we do that, we're going to have 2 into minus 1 all squared plus 4 into minus 1 plus 2. Let's see if that is equal to 0. If we do that, we're going to get a 2 minus 4 plus 2. And that is going to give us a minus 2 plus 2, which is equal to 0. So therefore, the left hand side of that equation is equal to the right hand side. So clearly you can see the quadratic formula is very easy and very kind of interesting to apply. I love this, and as I mentioned earlier on, this is the approach I use to solve quadratic equations because it's very easy, very straightforward, and you can finish solving a quadratic equation in very little time, right? Compared to the other methods that we discussed in the other videos, right? Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a different video. Bye.